As a project professional, you are not just there to manage tasks and timelines. You are operating within a complex strategic landscape where the decisions that you make can make or break the organisation. Yet, too many of us get over-focused on the day-to-day weeds and lose sight of the strategic imperatives. This kind of big picture thinking is not just for the C-suite executives. It's an essential capability for every project professional who wants to add value. So, what does it mean to think strategically? And how can you acquire this crucial skill? 1. What is strategic thinking? Let's start with what strategic thinking is not. It's not operational thinking, concerned with efficiency and processes and getting the day-to-day work done. And it's not tactical thinking, concerned with solving the immediate problem, optimizing what we're doing, and dealing with the existing constraints. Strategic thinking is fundamentally different from all of that. It's about understanding the broader context, seeing patterns and connections, and positioning our projects to deliver long-term value. It's not just asking, how do we do this? It's asking, should we do this, or what should we be doing? And it's not about working within constraints. It's about understanding what constraints we can remove and what new constraints that means we're going to face. The truth is, the strategic thinking means zooming out of our project bubble and seeing it set within the wider universe of the organisation and the organisation's ecosystem. 2. Understanding context. The first pillar of strategic thinking is context. You need the business acumen to understand what it is the organisation does and why it does it. Who does it serve? And what are the forces that shape its environment? This means diving into organisational strategy documents, analysing data, and developing your interview and critical listening skills. You will use tools like PESTLE or PEST or Spectre's analysis, SWOT analysis, supply chain analysis, and tools like Wardley maps to gain a broader understanding of the big picture. But here's the thing, context isn't just about reading reports and understanding them. It's about asking the right questions of the right people and listening carefully and critically to the answers you get. 3. Mastering time horizons. The second pillar of strategic thinking is time. Often, strategy operates on multiple time horizons simultaneously. You need to understand whether you and your project are optimizing for the next quarter, for the next year, the next 5 years, 10 years, or even longer. This is where things like scenario analysis can be invaluable. You're not just planning for one likely future, you're looking at a range of possible futures and putting in place plans that can accommodate different varieties, different probabilities, and different outcomes. I've seen too many project managers focused on one definitive deadline without thinking about the strategic context of that timing and what it would mean if things change. Will the solution we're producing still be valid in 3 or 5 years' time? And are we just solving today's problem? Or are we looking forward to tomorrow's opportunity? 4. Setting direction with flexibility. Strategic thinking requires what I call principled flexibility. This means we need to be able to adapt our thinking as events change. This is where tools like GOSPA and OGSM frameworks come into their own. These help us to cascade broad strategic intent down to specific project requirements. They help us maintain a line of sight between what we're doing day to day and what we hope to achieve for the future. We need our strategies to be both robust and flexible. Think about a willow tree. It will stand for years but it will bend in the wind without breaking. 5. Engagement at all levels. Strategic thinking is not a solitary activity. It requires that we engage with people at all levels of the organisation. And this means having high-level interpersonal skills and a degree of gravitas that allows us to speak with authority with senior people. And you need excellent listening skills too, to properly understand perspectives of people with very different points of view to you. And yes, you also need the ability to speak truth to power when you are convinced that the strategic direction that individuals want to take is not the right one. This means developing confidence and high levels of negotiation and influencing skills. You need to be able to challenge assumptions, but also to build coalitions. Because strategy without buy-in is just an expensive planning exercise that leads to no action. Number 6, measuring strategic value. Strategic thinking must be grounded in measurable outcomes. This means defining success criteria and the projected benefits at the outset, not as an afterthought. My course on project benefits management will help you with this to a very high degree. You need to be familiar and comfortable with business case development, benefits planning, and financial analysis tools like the discounted cash flow. Tools like OKRs help to translate strategic intent to measurable outcomes. But remember, strategic value often extends way beyond financial measures. You also need to pay attention to competitive advantage, organisational capability building, long-term positioning, and reputation. 7. Understanding risk and complexity. The reality is that strategy doesn't always turn out as you hope. So, strategic thinkers need to embrace uncertainty rather than ignoring it and hoping it'll go away. It is a part of your landscape. This, by the way, is why project managers can make very effective strategic thinkers. We use methods like scenario planning, the Delphi technique, and Monte Carlo simulation to deal with this uncertainty and to find likely outcomes. We also need sophisticated risk analysis approaches and, of course, high levels of contingency planning. More fundamentally, though, you also need a complexity mindset. The strategic challenges you face will very rarely be represented well by simple cause and effect diagrams. Typically, you will expect to see multiple causes leading to multiple effects in a highly complicated and interconnected way. This level of interdependency requires systems thinking. This approach gives us tools like influence mapping, causal loop diagrams, and iceberg models. These help us understand the interconnectedness and underlying complexity. And we can also use frameworks like the Cynefin framework and the Stacey matrix to gauge just how complicated or complex the system is that we're dealing with. 8. Portfolio design and project selection. Strategic thinking also requires us to think about how individual projects fit within wider portfolios and how to construct those portfolios to create the right level of balance of risk and potential return. Strategic thinkers need to be able to prioritise resources and make good decisions under the conditions of uncertainty. For this, we use tools like sensitivity analysis, decision trees, and the analytical hierarchy process. We're not just asking, can we do this project? We're asking, should we do this project, given the risks, the complexity, and the constraints, and the other projects we could be doing with the same resources. 9. Execution, where strategy meets reality. This is crucial. Strategy means nothing unless we can deliver on it. you need to supplement your strategic thinking with robust capabilities around defining, planning, delivery, and tactical problem resolution. This, of course, is the core domain of the project professional. But you also need to remain sensitive to shifts in circumstances and cultivate the ability to adapt to the changes. And finally, you need the operational skill set to translate the final delivered strategic intent into active, actionable processes. Ultimately, strategy and delivery are not two separate disciplines. They're just two sides of the same coin. Conclusion. Strategic thinking for project professionals is not about abandoning the details of delivery. It's about supplementing them with the bigger picture. This means understanding context and complexity. You need to engage your stakeholders and deliver measurable value across multiple time horizons. The question isn't whether you can afford the time to develop this kind of strategic thinking capability. Rather, in today's complicated world, if you want a high-level project management career, the real question is whether you can afford not to. So, what's your next step? Start with context. Understand your organization's strategic landscape. Then, build from there. Because the projects that truly matter are the ones that serve strategic purpose. And that requires strategic thinking. Please do give this video a like if you've enjoyed it or learned from it. I'll be making loads more great project management videos for you, so please do subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of them. And I'll look forward to seeing you in the next one.